Chapter 15, February 16th, 1943, Lodz Ghetto. It took most of the day to find the perfect place to sneak into the ghetto, or for that matter, to find any place at all. We chose a spot on the northern boundary with a tall wooden wall that was rarely patrolled, which made me curious. Everywhere else we'd looked showed us all the usual sights and sounds of overcrowding. Not here. Esther noticed it too. "Why is it so quiet?" she whispered. "Quiet can't be safe." I shrugged in response. Our choice is never between safe and not safe. It's not safe or not alive. That's all we have. This is the best place we've found, the only place we've found. I turned to her. Do we go in or not? Our entry location could be worse. On those occasions when I had to sneak in, I most dreaded the tall apartments just outside the ghetto walls that sometimes hovered overhead. Every window was a spyglass, every occupant a threat. Especially at night, young mothers up with the baby, the elderly with gout, or even curious onlookers who wandered about life on the street after curfew. Some things, as simple as an innocent glance out a window, could create enormous problems. Esther nodded. We go in. More concerning now than our location were the snowflakes softly falling around us. It was going to be a cold night. The tips of my fingers were already beginning to throb, but I hoped the weather would work to our advantage. This snow is a warning, Esther said, suddenly nervous. Maybe God is telling us to wait one more evening. Maybe God is offering to cover our tracks if we hurry, I replied. We waited until dark, and whenever possible walked toward the ghetto fence, using well-worn paths in the snow, or the footprints of guards who had passed this way before. When the tracks ran out, I glanced up at the new snowfall and whispered, "If you're going to come, then let it be for our good." More than the cold or the wet layers of my clothing, I cared about not being seen. Esther was directly behind me, with instructions to step exactly in my tracks, no matter what. If we were followed, I wanted the soldier to believe there was only one of us to find. Once we came closer to the area we targeted to enter, it became obvious that this spot had been used before as a means for escape. A hole had been dug beneath the wood fence, small enough for the children, who are most often used as smugglers by their hungry families. Esther should fit through the gap without too much trouble. It would be more difficult for me, but I was determined to make it through. "You are the most determined child I've ever seen," my mother used to say, out of exasperation or admiration. I was never sure. If only determination had been enough to heal her pain. I missed her, more than she would ever know. Esther and I crouched in front of the hole, listening for any signs of people on the other end. There were some sounds, but I couldn't quite identify what might be causing them. Clinking, shuffling. Very strange. We heard no voices, but no gunfire either. That at least was a good sign. "You should go first," Esther said, licking her lips. "You'll know what to do better than me." "It couldn't work that way tonight," I whispered. "You go first, because I'll need your help to pull me through. After you're in, I'll send our bag under, and then I'll come last." She shook her head. "I don't know what to do when we're in there." "Those are our people inside the walls, Esther. You'll know what to do. Now go." She took a deep breath and turned back to the gap, preparing to squeeze her through, when a hand gripped my shoulder tight and uncompromising, a sign that whoever had grabbed me was comfortable with the idea of causing pain. And he was. Isn't this interesting? Across from me, Esther's expression darkened from surprise to horror. The man who spoke to me had a Polish accent, but that didn't matter. He could get the immediate attention of a dozen Nazis with little more effort than a casual shout for help. The gun inside my bag was buried beneath sacks of flour. Even if I could get to one, firing a shot at this man would hardly keep the Germans away. "Are you Jews?" the man asked, in this darkness, and with my back to him. He wasn't sure. "We're only bringing the people a bit of food." I kept my body between him and Esther. "A good man like yourself can't object to that." He chuckled coarsely, as if I'd told a joke, as if this were some sort of game between us. I told him just enough to get my first look at him. And as soon as I did, I knew exactly who this was. What he was. Smalzak, the Jewish word for lard, and he looked every part of it, with a fleshy jawline, baggy eyes, and limp, stringy hair. I immediately calculated what it would take to escape his strength if this went any further. He looked soft, but he'd survived this long, so he must be stronger than he looked, and rotted to the core, no doubt about that. This man was Smalkownik. It was our name for the treacherous citizens who had built careers on blackmailing Jews caught outside the ghettos. They might be only one among a group of 5,000 other good Polish men and women, but that single individual could do more damage than the other 5,000 could ever do to help. Their sense of right and wrong was for sale to the highest bidder, their mortality a willow in the wind, blowing this or that way. They'd protect the Jews, or turn him into the Nazis, depending on who offered the better bribe or the fiercest threat. They were dough, willingly molded, pressed and plied. But they existed because blackmail works. Because people like me had no choice but to deal with men like him. He was here for money. I had some, but needed it to carry us through this mission. The Smalskownik eyed our bags. "You have food in there. What else?" "Only a little food for the children of this ghetto," I said. "Please, sir." "What children?" He looked genuinely confused, which confused me. Esther and I exchanged a glance. "What do you mean?" she asked. He shrugged, completely indifferent. "Ask the Judenrat." His eyes returned to our sacks. "My point is that you don't need all that food, but I'm a fair man. I'll take one bag and you can keep the other." I firmly shook my head, trying to take control of this moment. "I can't spare that much, sir. One sack of flour, perhaps, and—" He leaned in close enough that I could smell his fetid breath. How well he must eat off the starvation and suffering of those who were trapped behind these walls. "I'll take your entire bag and let you go. Refuse my generous offer, and I'll let the Germans know that I found a Polish girl and her Jewish friend at the ghetto wall. After they arrest you, I'll take both of your bags." I tried a threat of my own. "They'll arrest you too. The Germans don't like blackmailers." "It's all a game, you know that. German soldiers sell food to the black market, you smuggle it in, I catch you, and other Germans punish you for having black market food. Do as I say, and the game can end right here. Let us go, and the game ends with starving people getting fed tonight." I forced a smile to my face. "Let us help them." He considered that, then said, "There are hungry Poles, too. But I want to be fair. I'll let you choose whose bag I take, you or your Jewish friends." Mine had weapons. When he found them, what would he do? report his discovery to the Gestapo rather than risk being caught with illegal weapons? Or would he keep our secret and not draw the Gestapo's attention to himself? Esther was clearly thinking the same thing. My bag, then. She held it forward, too eager, too trusting. He stroked his chin. His eyes shifted from her again to me, and from one sack to the other. You want me to take that sack? He reached for mine. Then this is the one I want. He tugged at the handle, but my grip remained firm. I couldn't allow him to take it. Something is in this bag of must be valuable, or dangerous. He chuckled again. Perhaps we'll let the Germans take it from you instead. Let me call them over. Almost as if on cue, the shadow of a Nazi officer rounded the corner at the end of our street. The Schmalkalniks may face a few minutes of harassment for being caught after curfew, but it was nothing compared to the consequences we'd get, and we both knew it. His grin turned as cold as the night. Well, I released my bag, giving up food for dozens of people and every hope to start a resistance movement within Lodz. Worse still, he now held more than enough evidence to have me shot on sight. I was furious with his greed and ruthlessness, but I was angrier with myself for having been caught in the first place. The instant he was gone, Esther grabbed my arm. We've got to get in. She was right. The Nazi officers would pass by us soon. When Esther slid under the fence, I shoved her bag under. I was positioning myself to slide under too, when she whispered back at me, Chaya, this may be a mistake. You shouldn't enter. Why not? I asked. But no answer came.